Today we're going to begin our last myth of the three myths that we're covering in this course, and the final myth is the myth of the melting pot. And this is an idea in our culture that America is a melting pot for all different kinds of races and ethnic backgrounds. And this is a myth that's really built on like the others, that's built on just the founding forefathers and the foundation of our country, as being a chance and an opportunity for people to come from all over the world and have that American dream that we talked about last week, and that idea of just being able to start over and to start fresh and to be who you want to be here in America. That's the idea behind this melting pot. But we're going to see if we really believe that we have established that or not. Racial issues in our country are still a huge part of who America is. Sadly, it's been a part of our nation since it started, and our hope is that it does not have to continue that way. However, we have had the rise and surge of immigration issues in America. And while some people argue that we are all immigrants, there still seems to be this issue with how far we should let immigration go, who we should allow to immigrate to America, how are we going to regulate the immigration process. So one thing to kind of start us off is just a clip from Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, where he talks about, and some of you may have heard it, but we're going to start at the 12-minute mark, where he really summarizes what he believes to be the race relations and where he'd like to see the future of race relations be in our country.
Even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream.
Okay, so hopefully you've heard that sermon before, but if not, maybe you're able to look at it or listen to it a little bit from a different light with the idea of the melting pot and how that is really what he was referencing when he talked about the American dream at the beginning. I hope you heard him say the part about wanting this American dream to come to fruition, and the idea of his children, little black children and little white children together. And the racism would be gone. And so he is referencing that idea of a melting pot, and the articles that we read in the text and some of the things as far as the discussion are concerned are, have we really gotten through that melting pot or not? Are we truly a melting pot yet? There's some terms I want to go over as far as that kind of going along with this idea of melting pot. One of them is tolerance, which is a fair and objective attitude toward those whose opinions and practices differ from one's own. We talk about people being tolerant of others, and so that's an important word to kind of know when we talk about the idea of the melting pot. Diversity is another word that is commonly heard. It's variety, the inclusion of different types of people. When we have an ethnically diverse group, you have people from varied types of backgrounds. Homogeneous is another one, which is composed of parts or elements that are all of the same kind. So that's another word that we often hear as far as a group situation is concerned. Racism, you heard Dr. King talk about that, but that's another one that is commonly used. It's a set of beliefs based on perceived racial superiority or inferiority. The idea of domination played out because of privilege, resources, or power. That's what racism truly means. Another word is prejudice, which it's a preconceived attitude, opinion, or feeling, usually negative, that is formed without adequate knowledge, thought, or reason. So in some senses, we all come into life and circumstances with our own prejudices involved, because we often have some type of preconceived attitude or opinion. But a true prejudice has usually a negative connotation to it. Discrimination is another word. Action based on prejudice or racist beliefs that results in unfair treatment of individuals or groups. Usually that's involved, we think of it more as in employment, housing, or education. So when we discriminate against a certain group based on what their race is or their beliefs. And, I think we used to see more discrimination based on maybe skin color, as far as black or white, something like that. But now we're seeing more and more discrimination based on possibly religious views, as far as like Muslims in our country, and different types of races in that sense. Stereotype is that when you have a simplistic, firmly held belief, often negative again, about individual characteristics that you have generalized to all the people within that group. So we often have stereotypes about certain groups of people, what they're like, what they are interested in, things that they kind of do. And this is true not only for racial issues or for ethnic issues, but think of it even at OBU, we have a stereotype for what we think of a music major being like, and we have a stereotype for someone that is maybe a science major, something like that. We have stereotypes if they're from a small town, a small Oklahoma town, if they're from California, we have stereotypes kind of surrounding all of this. Hate crime is a crime of violence, property damage, or threat that is motivated by an offender's bias based on race, religion, ethnicity, nationality, gender, disability, or sexual orientation. So it's when some kind of violence or crime is committed and it's solely based on some type of racial or a discriminatory act in some ways. Just a couple statistics. In 2002, nearly 3/4 of white households and less than half of black and Latino households own their own homes. So just showing that the white people across the country, the majority of them own their own homes, whereas blacks and Latinos do not. Nationally, 86% of whites live in neighborhoods where minorities make up less than 1% of the population. Think about this in the sense of a suburb. White the white people continue to move farther and farther out in the suburbs so that there's less and less minority within their group or within their neighborhood. Between 1980 and 2003, the number of interracial marriages in the U.S. more than tripled to approximately 2.1, and I'm sure that has gone up even higher in the last 10 years. As of 2005, more than 12% of Americans are foreign-born, and over 19% speak a language other than English at home. This is going to go to a little bit more later in the week when we talk a little bit more about immigration and how that's changed. So right now, the question is, do we really have a melting pot? The force of the melting pot myth lies in this idea that all Americans are indeed created equal. It promises openness, harmony, unity, and equality. But were these really deceptive from the very beginning? Is that really something that we're trying to achieve? The two texts I have you reading as far as the racial relations are concerned with the melting pot are Thomas Jefferson. He gives an interesting perspective, and it's an old writing, obviously, but very interesting when you think of him as one of our forefathers. It's from Notes on the State of Virginia. I think you'll find it pretty fascinating, some of the things that he believes and some of the things that he says. And the other one is called The Boy in the Mirror. It's a little bit of a memoir about a boy who was raised by a Jewish woman, a white Jewish woman, and who was fathered by an African-American Christian minister. And so just the type of diversity and ethnicity that he sees in his life as having both of those as part of his background, and some of the things he faces with that. So read both of those, and then you'll write your discussion post, but kind of be thinking about this idea of whether we really have become a melting pot or not.